Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news. A former Court of Appeal president slams confusion surrounding Baha.
The Minister of National Security gives an update on joint efforts between the police and defense force. That story is coming up straight ahead.
The Labor Minister expresses his disappointment in unemployment. That story straight ahead.
Plus, government places a moratorium on gaming house operations. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight amid growing skepticism over the Baha deal announced by Prime Minister Perry Christie last year. Former president of the Court of Appeal, Dame Joan Sawyer, is questioning how the judgment in a publicly heard civil case could be sealed. However, a prominent attorney has dismissed her comments, insisting they are based on assumption, not fact. Vonique Toot reports.
In her letter to the editor, former Court of Appeal President Dame Joan Sawyer slammed the confusion surrounding the new Baha deal. She questioned how the judgment in a publicly heard civil case could be so sealed that no one other than the learned justice, as well as the Attorney General whose daughters and husband have business interests housed in the building, and maybe lawyers for the other parties, would be aware of what was in fact decided, noting that the Constitution provides for civil proceedings to be made public, except in certain circumstances. Dame Joan said, clearly there was no matter of defense or public safety or public order to cause the decision not to be made public. However, attorney Wayne Monroe insisted that a number of Dame Joan's assumptions are incorrect. He said it is common to seal such orders.
I'm still under an obligation until the order is unsealed that I can't divulge the details of it. It is not an unusual order. In receivership sales, these orders of sealing orders have become very regular. In fact, I appealed one for peace holdings all the way to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council saw nothing wrong with the sealing of a similar order in similar circumstances.
In her letter, Dame Joan also pointed out that the Prime Minister said he instructed the AG to make public the contents of the judgment of the court in the Baha case at the earliest opportunity. The former Court of Appeal president said if the AG can say when a judgment by a Supreme Court justice is to be made public, that raises the very thorny question as to whether the Attorney General is controlling the courts.
We have become overly hungry for news. We weren't always like this, and the reality is that you have to be careful in how you proceed.
In August, Prime Minister Christie announced that an agreement was reached with the Export-Import Bank of China to complete Baha. He told Parliament that the court sealed the agreement upon the request of the Chinese in an effort to protect the transaction. This has been met with sharp criticism. However, Monroe suggested critics' questions will soon be answered.
Come April 21st, everyone's going to see what happens with Baha. Come the date for the opening of SLS, everyone's going to see what's happening with Baha. Come the date for the opening of Rosebud, everyone is going to see what's happening with Baha. And I would hope that the public remembers all of the people who claimed that these things were untrue, so that when they happen, all of that confusion would be blown away. So you were talking some nonsense that's been demonstrated to be not true.
Baha has been sold to Chow Tai Fook Enterprises. The multi-billion-dollar resort will open before its sale is completed. Reporting for our news, I'm Vonique Toot.
Well, despite being criticized with deploying Royal Bahamas Defense Force officers to help in the fight against crime, National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage says Defense Force officers are contributing much in the fight. Giorgio Bain tells us more.
The Minister of National Security says he's not here to play the numbers game when it comes to the fight against crime, but rather he'll let the initiatives taken by he and his team speak for itself.
Following the recent spate of murders, Nottage announced that the Royal Bahamas Police Force and Defense Force would work together to tackle crime. This move was met with heavy criticism. However, Nottage says he is proud of the work being accomplished and admits that serious offenders have a different kind of respect for Defense Force officers.
They have a respect for the Defense Force, particularly those people who engage in violent crimes and crimes involving ammunition, firearms and ammunition. And so I'm satisfied with the results. I don't think that any criticism is valid. Because the Defense Force are very well trained and they know exactly what they should and should not do.
According to Nottage, Defense Force officers have been assigned to crime hotspots, urban renewal, and special assignments involving troubled youth.
Some of them have been placed on the urban renewal teams, so they do patrols through the hotspot communities. They try to establish relationships with the members of the communities, particularly the young people, and they have taken the bull by the horn themselves, and they've put together programs for the areas in which they are working.
5 years after the PLP erected controversial campaign signs which read 490 plus murders under the F&M government, leaders of the Free National Movement have been quick to point out that there have been nearly 600 murders since the PLP took office in May of 2012. However, Minister of National Security Dr. Bernard Nottage said those playing politics are foolish if they think curbing crime is easy.
Crime is what it is. It's not hidden. Everybody in the Bahamas knows or has an experience of the level of crime in the country. Our job is not to be competing about numbers, but to seek to reduce crime to an irreducible minimum. And anybody who thinks that is easy is foolish.
Reporting for our news, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
In other news, the government of the Bahamas has placed a moratorium on gaming house operations in the country. It's a move the Bahamas Gaming House Operators Association has been lobbying for quite some time. Today, the CEO of one of the major operations applauded government, saying he couldn't be happier with the decision. Kyle Joaquin reports.
The Ministry of Tourism has advised that the maximum number of gaming house operator licenses which may be granted in the Bahamas is 8. That number will be reviewed after a 10-year period, providing adequate opportunity for the industry to establish itself firmly. Island Luck CEO Sebastian has been very vocal on this subject for many months now. He said he's satisfied with government's decision.
I think it really can render some sort of control of the industry, making it more easier for the regulators to police, to manage, and that number of license is pretty much in line with the maximum that really the business of it says that it could sustain.
According to the ministry, this policy decision will not preclude the minister from authorizing the issuance of another request for proposal in the event of the non-renewal surrender, disqualification, or revocation of a gaming house operator license. Currently, there are 7 licensed web gaming operations in the country since ASU Draw and Spin closed its stores. Bastian says with this latest decision by government, those 7 operators have some sort of security.
Obviously, that offers a protection for investors that their investment will not possibly be saturated should any future changes to entrance into the market came. So I think it was, again, a great move on behalf of the government.
Back in February 2016, there were approximately 635 active web shops in operation at the commencement of the regularization process. As of June 2016, a total of 372 locations had been licensed and approximately another 31 applications are currently pending. Bastian said since the industry was regulated, it's been running fairly smoothly.
I want to send a special hats off to the regulators. They stress me out at times, and it's more than we signed up for, but I think the industry is really going in the right direction. The operators are being protected, the patrons are being protected. There's a lot of integrity in the industry. It's now a part of the formal economy, and it's just been a job well done by the Bahamas Gaming Board.
Bastian also revealed today that there are plans to launch the Island Luck Initial Public Offering, or IPO, this May. It's a move that could spell big bucks for the average Joe.
Part of our corporate vision and plan has always been to expand ownership beyond a selected few. I would have said that during the referendum, I would have said that post-referendum, I would have said that along the way, but I'm finally in a position now to take talk to reality, and it has always been my lifetime dream to have this industry owned and operated by Bahamians in masses.
Bastian's deadline of May is fairly aggressive, but he says Island Luck has already met some of the requirements. Despite the industry being regulated, it's still fairly controversial, with Canadian banks still refusing to accept webshop money. But Bastian believes once the IPO is launched, Bahamians will jump at the opportunity.
I will not subscribe to the direction that maybe my past successful Bahamians may have taken and closing the gates behind them. On behalf of the Bahamian people, I will always champion them to be afforded the opportunities that I'm afforded and use the platform that I have to empower and inspire as many Bahamians as I possibly can.
Reporting for our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Later on, we'll tell you how some lucky entrepreneurs will be given the opportunity to win tens of thousands in startup money. Meanwhile, despite job creation being a major campaign promise made by the Progressive Liberal Party during the 2012 general election, Labor and National Insurance Minister Shane Gibson is admitting that there are still too many unemployed people in the Bahamas. The unemployment rate remains in the double digits, something Gibson admits is a huge roadblock leading up to this year's general election. Jasmine Brown has more.
Gibson says as he's continued to campaign over the last few months, he's spoken to many people on the ground, and unemployment continues to be a sore point amongst voters.
We still have too many persons unemployed. And so even though we've delivered on more jobs than we said we would, the fact of the matter is there's nothing to celebrate, nothing to be happy about. That's the one single greatest issue that I face when I walk throughout the country. And so I have not had anybody who told me, Gibson, I'm not going to support you because of an issue or because of something else. The one reason why I had people tell me they're not going to support me is because I can't get them a job.
Currently, the national unemployment rate stands at 11.6%. That's down from the previous rate of 12.7% reported in May. Gibson says while unemployment has decreased under the current Christie administration, there is nothing to celebrate until that figure reaches the single digits.
When you get to that point when we can bring unemployment down to 2 or 3%, then we can really start to feel like we're making a significant progress in trying to see how we could have much more Bahamians employed.
Gibson said while there are thousands of jobs being created at Baha Mar, there must be more focused attention on creating opportunities for small businesses that are also responsible for employing a significant number of Bahamians.
We have our work cut out for us, and even though we were able to do some things that we wanted to do, we still have a lot of work ahead of us.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Still to come on our News, a look at global efforts to tackle child labor. Plus, do you have a business idea? Find out how you can cash in. That's coming up when our News returns.